Hi everyone, I'm so glad and honored today to have a special guest with me, um, Jack Elias. You are a second generation Lebanese. I have to start with that, right? we have we have common roots. So, how are you doing today? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with some music just to honor your presence and to set the intention of this interview. So, you guys at home, I invite you to take a deep breath, just relaxing, connecting, enjoying. I'm gonna play some harmonium before we start because it's a very special interview, and uh, I'm sharing some music here. It was a kind of Middle Eastern,
Yeah,
some
it's
some music
beautiful.
from some zatar and
Yeah,
okay, perfect. So happy to have you here. So for those who are listening or seeing this podcast, or some students, you could recognize through magic. And we have with us, Jack Elias, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, I discovered hypnosis 10 years ago. And and this technique took all my attention from music to the hypno. And when I met Dr. Richard Bandler in London, he told me, "You already doing hypnosis." I say, "How?" He told me, like, you go on stage, you play, facing 500, 1,000, 5,000 people. With your music, you hypnotize them. You take them in a deep trance. So you are familiar with this. Um, what is your vision as a teacher, as a master hypnotherapist, and you are beyond the hypno? You are beyond this because I know that you are somebody very connected to the cosmos, to what is. So I really want to hear Jack explaining a little bit your vision, because we talked about like different stuff on the phone, like confusion and stuff, and you told me people are already very confused. So we don't want to add more confusion. So you make it simple, you make it very connected to the person. So tell me more about your vision and how you see uh, the hypnosis today.
I'm not so concerned about the labels. One of the labels, which are nouns, are one significant aspect of how language is inherently hypnotic. We're so uh, connected to language. We're so connected to concepts, which are constructs, that we have lost the awareness that the constructs are not the reality.
The what? Sorry, I can.
The constructs are not reality.
Okay.
The ideas, conceptual ideas, are not the reality. They're just thoughts.
Exactly. Labels.
So when people get involved in just being swept away by their thinking, they lose awareness of contact with actual functionality of their being and the world. So in that sense, people are in hypnosis all the time. For example, people are pretty immersed in their story of their life. You know, I think very soon after we wake up, we start thinking about, I got to do this, I'm going to talk to them, this is going to happen, I want this to happen. It's, you know, like can be a lot of emotion. So it's like we all have our own soap opera. And we live in that soap opera. And there's several limiting hypnotic aspects to that soap opera. One is we have a subtle attitude that we're immortal. Like we can afford to waste all the time we want being petty, being greedy, being gossiping, you know, being distracted, as if we have all the time in the world to do things that are actually important to us.
But we don't have, you mean?
We don't have all the time in the world. Last time I checked, we're all mortal. And death could come at any moment. So you've probably, if your listeners are into hypnosis, they've probably learned kind of traditional hypnotic understanding that if you get people in a deep state, specifically somnambulistic state, you can create anesthesia. You can create numbness anywhere in the body.
Right.
Well, people are doing that all the time. We're constantly numb to our mortality all the time. And that's the most profound anesthesia there is. Because based on that numbness to our mortality, which includes the ability to appreciate the preciousness of being alive, when you're numb to that, you build and support all kinds of entitlement. And I don't, you know, entitlement in micro and macro ways, like entitlement in racial ways, like white people are better than everybody else, and entitlement on micro ways, like I do math better than you do, so I'm a better person than you are. People are doing, this is like the mass infection of humanity throughout history, these ridiculous hypnotic beliefs based on that are continue to be supported by the deeper level of numbness. Numbness, we learn as children to create this numbness to survive the heartbreak of having our true nature repressed by how we're being brought up or by the environment we're in. You know, I like to use a very simple visual, like a natural unharmed little child is an unself-conscious, constant expression of exuberance. They're just going Yahoo all the time. Yahoo, Yahoo, okay? And they don't have an idea of who they are. They're not in a soap opera of who I am and what do people think of me. They're unself-consciously exuberant. Now, when that starts being inhibited, which happens a lot for most of us before the age of 7, and the reason why that's significant is because children are not little adults. Children are not fully formed when they're born. And very crucially, their brain is not fully formed and functional. Until around the age of 7, we don't have a cognitive faculty. We cannot do critical thinking, which means we are in a constant suggestible open state. And the setup for a child is they're trying to figure out the world. They're trying to figure out the relationship to the body and mind. They're trying to figure everything out. So it's very magical. It can be very confusing. and they have an instinctive focus on the parents. They have an instinctive connection and recognition, not a conceptual recognition, but an instinctive understanding that they are dependent upon these people to stay alive. So the power of life and death, that's the definition of a God. So parents, for number one, children relate to their parents like gods because of that instinctive sense of life, power of life and death. Number two, because they don't have a cognitive faculty, they don't understand that adults have inner lives. They don't understand that adults carry burdens. They think adults just do whatever they want. They do all this magical stuff, and they're gods, which means if my mother or father swats me because I spilled my milk for the third time and then calls me names and stupid and you don't deserve anything better than to be beat up, we don't think, whoa, mom and dad must have had a fight last night. They're really in a bad mood. We don't attribute it to their inner life or their confusion. We think, I've just been taught a lesson about the laws of the universe. I spill my milk 3 times. That requires that I be beaten and spoken to in a very nasty way, and I don't deserve love. Law of the universe. Law of the universe. As you know, again, people who do hypnosis, one of the key understandings about hypnosis, and also, by the way, about any learning in general, we learn through repetition and vividness. Anything.
Yeah.
And on the scale, if you have 100% vividness over here, you have 100% repetition over here. Most things we learn a mix in between. Some things, like trauma, one shot, or phobia, one shot, you can remember that and react to it for 100 years,
Yeah.
even though you only experienced it once. Intense vividness, immediate, permanent learning.
So
On the others, go ahead.
Yeah.
So on the other extreme, no vividness. I like to use the example from being in 4th grade, and I'm, born in America, so we have 50 states, and I, sitting at my desk, facing the chalkboard, having to learn the capitals of the states over and over again. There's just no interest, so you just got to do it over and over and over and over, and then you remember it. Extreme repetition. So a little child is living with giant gods. Pretty much everything those gods do is extremely vivid. Plus, they get hundreds of messages every day.
Yes.
So
Bombard.
if those messages are communicating there's something wrong with you, we don't have to love you. In fact, we have a right to withdraw love and cause you punishment because you did this and this or that. And that's taken in vividly and repeatedly, not as messages from confused adults and that it's not fair to me. It's taken in as this is the law of the universe. This is the truth of the universe. I am not worthy to be loved because I spilled my milk, because I pooped my pants and I'm supposed to be potty trained. Ridiculous things.
So how do you do with your techniques? Because I know that you have a large panel of techniques, like from the NLP to the hypno, but also the energy and meditation and the non-invasive, non-confusion technique, right? So how do you deal with trauma?
Okay, so first is to help people understand that the past doesn't exist. It's over with. People think they have trauma because of the past. They don't have trauma because of the past. The past doesn't exist. You're not reacting to the past. You're reacting to the facsimile of the past that your massive creative hypnotic power creates as what we call memory. So we have trauma because we keep entering the memory as if it's a 3D virtual reality movie. We don't naturally code the memory with the infused recognition. This is over with. It's just data. Being just data means it's not about me. It doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean anything about anything. It's just events that happen and they no longer exist. But we take the data, it's like a little script. If you just left it on words on a page like a script and didn't read it, there'd be no charge. But what we do is we unwittingly act as the creator and the director and the actors, and we vivify that. We make a 3D virtual reality movie that replicates the past that's over with. And then we literally plug ourselves energetically into it. So we re-experience it. So then we experience trauma.
So we are investing in our trauma to make it bigger, you mean? Or
we're creating it.
Creating it.
We're creating it.
And keeping it vivid, maybe.
Yeah, we vividly create it because it's a facsimile of the past event. The past event was vivid, but it's over with. So people think they're relating to the world. They're not relating to the world. They're relating to their mind. And that's the root hypnosis. But our mind is hypnotizing us all the time.
Yeah, right. So what is our range of freedom, of free will?
Yeah, well, if you realize it's all the activity of your mind, then you begin to become sensitive to how you can regain full agency, that you're the doer. So one valuable thing that came out of NLP was the explanations about submodalities, which is, it's kind of a funny story because initially, I forget this guy's name, and maybe he wasn't telling the truth, but he was one of the early people with Bandler and Grinder, and he had this weird idea about playing with the movies that were in his mind, and he discovered if he changed variables about the movies, like whether it's a movie or snapshots, whether it's black and white or color, like where is it located, yeah. And he discovered it would change his state.
Yeah, and Robert Dilt, maybe?
No, it wasn't Dilt, I forget, but he claimed he went to Bandler, and Bandler said, well, that's ridiculous, that'll never work.
Yeah, yeah. He's hilarious.
Or maybe it was Grinder. One of them said, bah, and the other one said, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So when you understand that whatever you are experiencing is constructed, then you realize you can deconstruct it. And you can deconstruct it in very simple ways, like in terms of a trauma. When you realize it's a 3D virtual reality theater that you are inside, you can first of all be outside of it. Yeah. And then based on your common understanding, like you know that if you're standing on a street corner and two cars crash into each other, you're going to be powerfully affected. Right. But if you happen to be flying 1,000 feet overhead in an airplane and you can look down and you see that crash happen, same crash, you're not particularly affected. So you understand that if you're having vivid emotional states, one of the crucial variables is that you're probably locating yourself very near the data. Like most people, when I ask them to remember a traumatic experience, and I'll pause and I say, are you remembering it? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, how do you know you're remembering it? And they kind of, well, I'm feeling it. And I said, well, yeah, I know you're having feeling, but how do you know what to feel? Mm-hmm. Most people, you have to go 5 or 6 back and forths like that. And then I finally, the one that will do it if they don't figure it out ahead of time, is I say, well, how do you know you're remembering this memory and not a ham sandwich? And then they go, well, I'm seeing it. And I say, yeah, of course. That's how you know what you're remembering. You're looking at it. That's how you know it's this memory and not a ham sandwich, because you're not looking at a ham sandwich. You're looking at the memory. And then we say, so is it a movie or is it snapshots? Is it color or black and white? Is it in front of you, behind you, to the left, right, up, down? And how far away?
Yes.
And then, because I want people to learn that they're in control of their mind more than just solving the problem. Solving a problem is like giving them a fish, helping them understand these learnings is teaching them how to fish. So I don't just immediately cut to a stock formula about how to get rid of trauma. I'll move towards that by like, okay, it's right here. When it's right here in your face, you feel really upset. That makes sense. Move it 10 feet back. What happens if you move it 10 feet back? And they'll go, oh, I don't feel so upset. And then I say, notice that. Notice that. And notice you did that.
Yeah.
Recognize you're demonstrating you have the power about how to code your memories. Now move it 100 feet back. And then maybe, I'll, after a while, I say, okay, now put it in a catapult and send it in this catapult, flying up over your head and 10 miles behind you. Now what's it feel like? 10 miles behind you, black and white. And they'll say, it's irrelevant. Like it's over. Like that, yeah, now I get it. It's over. When it was in front of me going like this, I didn't realize it was over.
Yeah. So, Jack, sometimes the trauma will show up 10 years later.
Yeah.
It's not a direct effect.
No, it's always creation. If it shows up is a tricky word. Shows up is like out of nowhere. No, for whatever reason, 10 years later, you had some interaction with your inner world and outer world such that you created it. So it didn't show up 10 years later, you created it 10 years later. Or
something happened. It's like the smoker. I did sessions for people to stop smoking, for example, and they can stop for years till the moment they have an emotion.
Good point. So the thing is, every problem is a solution. The only reason something persists in our consciousness, and we're complaining about it, why does this keep going? I hate this. I want this to be gone, but it's with me every day. That's because it's not simply a problem. It's also a solution. One of the main aspects of the hypnosis of ordinary mind that people think, I'm not a hypnotized, I'm a regular consciousness. No, regular consciousness is habitually perceiving the world as if it's a one-sided coin, which means moment by moment, you have a constant flow of blind spots. The one side of the coin you're aware of is the problem because it's hurting you somehow. But what you're blind to is that you're persisting in creating it because it's a solution. And you've forgotten that it's a solution because you get so absorbed in the problem aspect. The example you gave, smoking, weight, very common. Oh yeah, I quit smoking. I didn't smoke for 3 years, but then I started. What happened? My dog got run over by a car. My house burned down. My wife left me. What hypnotherapists don't do, many of them, is they don't recognize and clear the core motivation, which is, in general, human beings do not cultivate emotional resilience. We're taught, especially men, we're taught that having feelings is bad. You have feelings, it means you're a sissy. So I don't have any feelings. I'm a he-man, And women are, in a different way, also devalued. So we don't embrace our feeling nature. We don't learn how to process emotions. And the primary emotion we don't know how to
So
process.
How do you process the emotions? What would you mention to our folks watching?
Yeah, so emotions, there's a difference between emotions and feelings. We have a natural feeling capacity that's unself-conscious. So the way I'm using these words, remember, words are hypnotic and it depends how you use them. So I'm defining my terms. Feelings, human feelings, are unself-conscious, meaning it's a natural organic response. No storyline. Jack's not having this, it doesn't fit in the soap opera. It's just a natural responsiveness in present time organic being. What we have learned to do from childhood, from those early insults, we have learned, because that natural unself-conscious eruption of feeling is what we get punished for having. So we learn how to shut it down. And the way we learn how to shut it down, one way, is when we repress it, we generate an emotion.
Mm.
An emotion sucks the feeling energy into a storyline. Like, oh, I'm feeling afraid. I must be a weak person. So we
connect things.
We attribute selfhood to feeling energy, which has no self. It's just an organic flow of being. Emotions are completely, the core of an emotion is a pathetic idea of self. It's the soap opera. Emotion is the soap opera. And we learn to immediately escape feeling feelings by immediately changing them into emotions, which means we take the energy and we say it means this, and we just plug it into our soap opera. And now we have to struggle because it means this about me. If you just relax and don't do anything, it just comes and goes.
And not affecting me. Okay.
There's there's nothing personal in it. There's no story in it. It's not, feelings are not about you. Thoughts are not about you. Sensations in the body are not about you. That's a big hypnotic suggestion. This is my body. I'm this body. I'm feeling this sensation in my body. It's about me. No, it's not. None of it's personal. That's the root hypnotic suggestion.
So
everything's personal.
The body and what is in the mind is like the emotion. Is it like in our body and the feeling, or how
yeah, so
the feeling is in our body?
Body is a concept. There is no body. There's just an energy field.
Okay.
Okay. We create a concept about a certain massive package of constant activity of energy that we have learned to just package instantly body. But
yes.
Really it's thousands of fluctuating sensation, energetic movements. So we've learned to label. Remember, nouns are hypnosis because we learn nouns are things. So we think body, I have a body. You don't have a body. There is no body. You know, it's undeniable. It's like we know scientifically. There's like, what, 130 trillion individual cells that give the appearance of a solid body. But there's no solid body.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so the activity of organic expression generates feeling energy. And when we're in the trance of thought, when we're being taught to conceptualize about me versus you, separation, dualistic conceptualizing, which is hypnosis, we learn to create hope and fear, good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, you know, worthy and unworthy.
Reality. Yeah.
So we start infusing unself-conscious feeling energy with meaning and significance according to how we've been instructed by our parents and primary environment.
Yeah. And media and neighbors. And
media, sure.
So what is your insight for the people in fear? Because we are talking about emotions and feelings.
Yeah, well, that's the neat thing. There's only activity.
There's only
activity.
Activity.
There are no things. There is only activity.
What do you mean by that?
There's only activity. There are no solid things. There's just the appearance of solid things, but there are no solid things. We know this. I mean, we've known this like the Greeks and the Romans, maybe. They contemplated the nature of reality and they recognized everything as a composite, but they theorized everything is a composite except for this irreducible particle, which they named atom. Everything's made of atoms. There are no solid things. They're all made of atoms. The only solid thing is an atom. Well, now we know in this quantum physics age, the atom isn't solid. There's no solid nothing anywhere. It's all just an ocean of energetic vibration.
So ocean of energetic vibration. So for
like
people,
music.
And?
Like music.
Like music, definitely. Music, that's why we started with the music. Because the energy and boost the whatever you are. Listening to music will change your mood if you are in anxiety or stress. So, for example, let's connect with what's going on, for example, in Lebanon and the people there like living in fear and they are reacting.
Yeah. Okay, so we need a distinction. You need a distinction between fight or flight freeze mechanism. That's a built-in mechanism for survival. It generates powerful chemical processes and like adrenaline in order to get us to fight or flight or freeze to survive. We have mislabeled that as psychological fear. It's not psychological fear. That is a natural, unself-conscious response that we should restore our ability to just flow with that. The problem is that we suck the energy of the survival mechanism into the storyline of who we are and generate fear. It's fear about this apparently solid, immortal being that wants to stay immortal. Fear is a hypnotic suggestion. Now, since everything is activity, and every activity that we do, every activity that a living organism does, begins with a motivation.
Evaluation.
A motivation.
Motivation.
Motivation generates activity. Okay? Now, every activity requires energy and attention. Would you agree?
Yes.
Every activity requires energy and attention. And any energy and attention you put into one activity is not available for another activity. Try to cook an omelet while you're playing your Tibetan gong.
Ball or piano.
It's not going to work out. So everything is activity. Fear is not a thing, it's an activity. It's generating and responding to fearful thoughts. That's an activity. Any energy and attention you put into the activity of generating a fearful state is energy and attention that's not available to actually deal with the real problem. So fear and anxiety are always an energy drain. They are always make things worse because they are standalone energy drains. I've had people tell me, sometimes I might say to someone, just imagine you don't have any fear. And they say, well, if I didn't have any fear, I would just lay on the couch. And they say, my fear is what enabled me to create the success I have. And I say, no, you're misinterpreting. I say, everything operates according to the laws of cause and effect. You don't get apples from lemon seeds. The reason you have the success, the good success in your life, is not because of the fear, it's in spite of the fear. Even though you planted all these fearful, chaotic, painful seeds, you still had enough energy and attention left over to plant genuinely beneficial seeds that blossomed as your success.
So what about procrastination?
There's no such thing as procrastination. That's a judgment.
That's
a judgment. It implies no activity, but there is never not activity. But if you label an activity with a word that you have given the meaning no activity, now you really fucked yourself up with a hypnotic suggestion. Nothing's happening here. No, you're always doing activity. So be curious about the activity that you're choosing to do as you simultaneously label it procrastination.
So
for you, interested in why you do that.
Some people to avoid something else.
Exactly. That's the problem solution thing.
So
they might say, oh, I have this problem with procrastination. I say, no, you don't. That's your solution. How's it helping you? What bad thing would happen to you if you never procrastinated again? That brings up the shadow side.
So just to explain for people, problem is solution means that the problem is showing me the solution, but I'm avoiding it because maybe I don't want to engage into that.
It's not showing you the solution, it's disguising the solution.
Say it again, sorry.
It's not showing you the solution, it's disguising the solution, it's covering the solution.
So I have to go beyond my fear to fix it, or?
Well, you stop owning it. You don't own the fear. It's not your fear. That's another hypnotic suggestion. It's just fearful activity. The best way to get rid of fear is to stop owning it and just
to observe it.
Yeah, treat it like the weather.
Amazing.
It's not you. It's not about you. That's a fiction. It's just an activity. There's no personhood in an activity. Activity is activity.
Yeah. I mentioned to people, like, stop eating fear with the spoon.
Yeah, if that metaphor works, good. But better than a directive like that is to ask, what bad thing would happen if you stopped eating fear? What bad thing would happen if you never ate fear again? That makes them go to the other side, where they'll discover how fear is their solution.
So, Jack, I want to thank you so much for your insights. I want to deep a little bit more into, I know you are a busy man and you don't have a lot of time, but
I only have a few more minutes, but go ahead.
Okay, so tell me more about Jack, the spiritual guy, and the connection to Buddhism, and how you, I know you don't like titles.
No, listen, it's again, this is all language. We are sacred beings. Everything about life is sacred. There is no spiritual and profane. That's just a concept. What I do is help. I don't think about hypnosis. I don't think about NLP. I just try to communicate in such a way that people connect with their inner wisdom and their inner compassion. And it's very common for me within 20 minutes in a session for people to just be not in a deep trance, just like blissed out, feeling their goodness. Not blissed out like, oh, what a trip, like acid, but feeling the sacredness of their being. And they invariably will say, it can't be this easy.
Amazing.
We have been trained to throw it away.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. The challenge is not getting people to experience the sacredness of their being, is to get them to keep it. Because they experience, it's the most effortless thing, because it's the truth of us. It's spontaneous. We're not creating it. It's a gift.
Right. So
it's the easiest thing.
So what is your latest gift, or I mean, what would you mention to people now? Because the word is hypnotized in a way today.
Yeah, well, when I train people, because everybody's afraid about the word, what if I can't hypnotize people? What if I get a person I can't hypnotize? What if I tell people on the first day, I advertise we're doing hypnosis because otherwise you wouldn't come. But now that you're here, I want you to be very clear. We're not learning hypnosis. That's just a word, and it's not a very good word. And lots of people have negative associations with that word. What you are learning, like if you go out here, in between classes, and I tell you, go practice on people, get volunteers, and you all go up to somebody and say, can I hypnotize you? They go, oh, no, you make me quack like that,
Yeah.
But what happens if you go up to people and say, I'm learning how to help people enter enhanced learning and enhanced healing states? Who's going to say no to that?
Nobody.
So you're not learning to hypnotize people. You're learning to help people refocus their energy and attention into the activity of generating enhanced learning and enhanced healing states.
Exactly. So we can end with by dehypnotizing people, right? This is the word that you like.
Also, here's my new book.
Wow. Guys,
The Outrageous Guide to Being Fully Alive.
Boom. Okay.
Boom.
Defeat your...
What?
What is the subtitle? Can you read for me?
Yeah, the subtitle is Defeat Your Inner Trolls and Reclaim Your Sense of Humor.
Yeah, exactly. The humor is everything.
So it's available on bookbaby.com. Bookbaby.com. And if you forget that, I have a couple of websites, jackelias.com, which is my more mobile-oriented, for hip mobile people. And then my big, long-standing website is findingtruemagic.com, which is the title of my first book.
And this one.
Yeah. So tons of information, tons of resources, and the ability to connect
this
with me
book
if you
is
have
amazing,
any kind
Jack.
of question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for for creating it, for writing it. I used a bunch of your protocols in my practice, and past life regression, and also the animal totem. Like
Yeah.
you are merging in this book like a bunch of knowledge. Beautiful book,
Yeah.
and I'm curious to discover the new one.
Okay.
So much for your time.
Thank you, man.
And definitely we'll keep in touch, maybe for more insights later
Oh,
on.
one more thing. I'm doing a webinar in May. So
Which day?
it's 4 Wednesdays, every Wednesday in May.
Okay.
And it's called, the title is Becoming Your Own Best Friend, the advanced class.
Nice. It's a good one.
So I'll send you the link.
Okay.
And I'll send you the link for the book too.
Thank you so much, Jack.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.